Hello everyone, this is Mr. Avila here with a presentation on the EDI style of closure. Kind of feels like what we normally call an exit slip. There is a little bit of a distinction between an exit slip and a closure. When we do a closure, we want to make sure that students are completely prepared for the closure in independent practice before we actually hand out any independent practice. Closure is a final check before the independent practice. We want to have at least 80% of the students showing that they're pretty proficient at the objective for the day before we go into independent practice. The last check is closure. We don't want students to practice misconceptions or incorrectly memorizing things while they're doing independent practice because you did not make sure that they understood the lesson leading into the independent practice. So closure is our chance to get a last check to see that students are ready to go on their own. There are three types of closure described in EDI. Look them up. What are they? The first one is skill closure, concept closure, and summary closure. Now, it doesn't mean three different closures. It means just one assignment with these three aspects addressed within it. During closure, we don't want to do any more teaching. This is the time for us to see what students can do independently. Can my students successfully execute the skill? Can my students correctly apply the concept that was just taught? And can my students summarize what they have just learned? So we're going to take those three things and apply it to this situation. This is a lesson from Edusary, which is the website that's associated to the book EDI, Explicit Direct Instruction. So we're taking a look at this objective. In this case, we have solve verbal problems using exponential equations. Let's take a little step away from closure for a second. And I ask you, when we write an objective, there are three parts: concept, skill, and context. Before I show you them, think about them. What is the concept? What is the skill? And what is the context in this objective? Our concept is, are you ready? Here we go. Verbal problems. The skill is that we're able to solve those verbal problems, the skill being the verb. And the context is exponential equations. So we're going to have a verbal problem. We're going to utilize exponential equations so that we can solve them. Now that we have an objective, let's talk about how we've taught our lesson. We've done our CFUs. We've tackled. We've done our concept development. We've done our skill development with the rule for two. We're all done. We're all set. And now we're moving on into the into the closure, which is going to have three components. First component is skill. Here's an example, and it would not hurt to include the steps that we went through during the lesson to solve an exponential equation, a verbal problem with an exponential equation. Here's our problem, and here would be the setup for in order to find the value of x in this case, to find out how long it will take for the population of bacteria to reach 1,280,000. The steps are available there, and students are going to show you independently that they're able to apply the skill that they learned in the lesson. Along with the skill closure, we want to have a concept closure. Again, the concept closure is, do students understand the concept that was taught in the lesson? So that's a little different than the skill. So in order for us to, one way to assess this is for them to write their own problem. Write a word problem that describes exponential growth. So they would invent a problem like this. Maria invested $100 at 5% interest. How long will it take her to double her money? You've zeroed in on whether or not the students have understood the concept of the lesson separately from the skill. We tend to live in this land as math teachers, but it's important that we also address that students understand the concept of the lesson. Finally, which many teachers that I know are huge fans of this, and that is a summary. Can your students write a summary of what they just learned? In this example, here we have, what did you learn today about solving problems using exponential equations in one variable and with a word bank provided as a scaffold, so that students can use the word bank and try to create their own response to show you that they've understood the lesson for the day. So how can they summarize it and use the words that are available in the word bank to help students use academic vocabulary in their response? Okay, so one more time, closure is a final check before independent practice. There are three types of closure we just talked about. There is skill closure, concept closure, and summary closure. As a sample, I tried to put this together for you. Let's do a closure of closure. If I were to actually give you a closure on the lesson of closure that I just gave you, my questions would be along these lines. Had a little trouble with them, but let me know what you think. Create a closure, all three parts of an upcoming objective. The skill would be, can you create closures? So this would be the skill closure. The concept closure would be, when do you use closure in a lesson? Why? Did you understand what was the purpose of closure and why we use it when we use it? Concept closure. Last one would be, in your own words, summarize what is meant by the EDI style of closure. So now we're just basically trying to get you to use your own words to describe what words, how would you explain what a closure is? Maybe a word bank could be included here. Maybe I could use the word scaffolding in this situation. Thank you very much for your attention on this. I appreciate it. I appreciate all of you. I hope that you were able to get a sense of what closure is all about. And with that, I will see you next time. Bye.